Pessoal, boa noite, voltei. Não tá aparecendo a opção de eu mandar um convite pro Dr. Francis. Ele não entrou ainda, gente. Deixa eu mandar mensagem para ele e ver se vai funcionar desta vez. Okay, I just sent you a request, Dr. Francis. Now you have just to accept my request, okay? Okay, I think.
That thing works.
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you go. All right, bye. Thank you.
Hi, finally.
I'm sorry. Turns out it works on the phone. It doesn't work on the computer.
Oh, that's why. Because when I was trying to send you a request, it was showing unable to join.
Yeah, apparently they have the version that works is the one you have on your phone, but on the computer they disabled something. Oh. So I could see you like I did the other time, but I could not talk to you. So I guess we're live.
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay.
I think he lost connection. Oh, I thought you lost connection, but you are bad. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So let's start presenting ourselves.
Okay.
Let me talk in Portuguese first, and then you start. Boa noite, gente. Estou aqui agora ao vivo com o Dr. Francis Boyer. Muitos que estão assistindo já me conhecem. Meu nome é Paulo Infante. Eu sou advogada no Brasil e especialista em Direito Internacional. E tenho mestrado em Direito Americano e Direito Internacional nos Estados Unidos. E ano passado eu conheci o Dr. Francis Boyer. So you can present yourself.
Okay. Well, good evening. So I've been an attorney for over 12 years, and I have a board certification in international law. I'm only one of 50 attorneys in Florida to have it. And I'm also licensed in the state of New York. I mostly handle international matters, being an international investor, international family law, international business dispute, real estate investment, and litigation. I also do some trademark registering and handle some import and export matters as well. We are the main office is in Jacksonville, and we have satellite offices in Miami and Orlando.
And New York as well?
New York as well, yes. Yes.
So just to summarize in Portuguese, ele falou que ele é advogado já tem 12 anos e ele é especialista em Direito Internacional. E ele é certificado pelo BAR da Flórida. Para quem não sabe, o BAR é a OAB dos Estados Unidos. E são só 50 advogados que são certificados como especialista em direito internacional. E o escritório principal é em Jacksonville, mas ele também tem escritório em Miami, Orlando e também em Nova York. I think that's it.
Yes. So we handle immigration matters, mostly tied to investments.
Ele diz que ele mexe com direito internacional e também imigração e também, principalmente, investimentos nos Estados Unidos.
And we also handle family law matters in an international level, either during a divorce or post-divorce matters.
E ele falou que também atua na área de família, na parte de direito internacional, envolvendo essa questão. And we have in common client that also involves international family law, right? And I think he's watching us. I would like to say happy birthday to him. Today is his birthday.
Oh, really? Well,
Yes.
happy birthday then.
A gente estava dando parabéns para um cliente nosso em comum, que hoje é aniversário dele. Ele está nos assistindo. So,
yes, we do child support recovery. We do that. I see it because there was a question there. And that's something that we do, that people ask more because people are more mobile. And so we can take, for instance, a court order from Brazil and where money has not been paid for child support and collect the money here.
Ele falou que ele mexe com essa parte, assim, de pensão alimentícia, e se tiver uma ordem no Brasil que determine pagar a pensão, ele pode fazer valer essa ordem lá nos Estados Unidos. Someone is asking, do you work with VAWA cases and EU visa?
EU visa, not so much. I refer those cases out. VAWA cases, we do some, I would say, unfortunately, because the basis for that is essentially what you would call a form of physical or psychological spousal abuse. But yes, that's something we, unfortunately, I should say, we do sometimes.
Então, ele disse que sim, que ele trabalha com esse tipo de visto. VAWA, para quem não sabe, é um tipo de visto que a mulher, que principalmente está sofrendo alguma violência psicológica, esteja em território americano, tem o direito especial a esse visto, que, se não me engano, dá direito ao green card. So does this VAWA visa, the person can maybe have the green card with this kind of visa?
Well, what it does is it allows somebody to petition. Oftentimes it occurs when the foreign spouse is held into a form of servitude by the American spouse, who would refuse to sponsor the paperwork for the green card, and essentially also cause of physical abuse or otherwise. So it allows you to petition for that person without the American sponsor.
Ok. Ele explicou que a esposa estrangeira que estiver sofrendo esse tipo de abuso e não puder continuar com os papéis do green card, porque o marido americano se nega, isso dá o direito da pessoa dar andamento ao visto e ao green card, né, sem a concordância do marido estrangeiro.
Now for the next question, because I can understand Portuguese to an extent. I cannot speak it. Actually, I don't want to try tonight, but I can read the question. I can understand. So yes, when one is a student, as a foreign international student, you can actually work. There's two ways to do that. The first one is you can request to have an employment on campus. And I'll let you translate that if you want.
Ele disse que o estudante pode sim, tem algumas opções ao estudante, a pessoa estrangeira com visto de estudante, que pode trabalhar em algum trabalho dentro do campus da universidade.
And if the school does not have a job on campus, which could be sometimes the schools, I mean, the universities can have like a library. They could have a coffee shop. They could have maybe even of international counseling center. If a job is not available there, then the foreign student can petition with that specific letter from the school and can work outside of campus, almost anywhere that student wants.
But does it have to be like an internship in the same area?
You can have a real paid work, which is not an internship, while you're a foreign student. Is limited to 20 hours a week, but otherwise you can petition for that, and it's done, you know, as a foreign student. You can do that. Mm-hmm. It's still limited to 20 hours a week because you're supposed to be a student first. You're not supposed to be a worker.
Mm-hmm. Ok. Então ele disse que pode trabalhar, se a universidade não tiver emprego para oferecer no campus, pode trabalhar fora, desde que tenha uma petição com autorização da universidade. Pode ser em qualquer outra área, mas tem que ser limitado a 20 horas por semana, porque o estudante está lá com visto de estudante, né? Então não pode ficar só trabalhando. And then I think we have more questions.
Yeah. Yes, but let me add another point. The second option as a student to work mm-hmm. is after graduation, you could apply for what is called optimal practical training, which is essentially depending if you have at least 1 year where you get a work permit after you get your diploma, and you should work in the same line of work that you studied. Mm-hmm. I'll let you translate that.
Ele disse que a outra opção é quando o estudante se forma, ele pode modificar o visto de estudante para um visto chamado OPT, que permite o estudante trabalhar na área que ele formou por até 1 ano. Does the
at least 1 year.
Oh, so that he can extend.
Is at least, no, you cannot extend per se, but if you work in mathematics, sciences, then they give you a 1.5 years. And what's happening, generally speaking, if you are a foreign student, you take that time to be essentially tested by the employer, and the employer will file for either a work permit under H-1B, or depending on your capabilities and who you are, maybe an EB-2. So essentially, it's a training visa to a certain extent, but it allows you to get a paid full employment right after graduation.
Uhum. Ele falou que pode ser prorrogado por até 1 ano e meio em algumas situações específicas, ou quando acabar o prazo do OPT, o empregador pode aplicar para um visto H1B ou EB2, dependendo da sua situação. Por isso é sempre importante ter um advogado de imigração que ele vai te orientar a fazer o caminho correto, o melhor caminho. And then the employer would sponsor the visa for this person, right?
Correct.
E o empregador seria o patrocinador, né, o sponsor do visa, do visto do estudante.
After the OPT, right?
Depois do OPT, depois que se for.
Yes, because the OPT, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, because the OPT, the student has the right to get it. So that's why it's wonderful, because the employer doesn't pay anything, doesn't take any risk. And the student has at least 1 year when he can work, and the employer pays 0 and gets a foreign student, which now a graduate, with a work permit.
Ok. Ele falou que a responsabilidade do empregador no OPT não tem essa responsabilidade, a responsabilidade é do estudante, né? E passaria a ter só se terminar o OPT e contratar sendo sponsor do outro visto.
And if the student requests the OPT visa on time, he automatically gets it. Because the OPT visa doesn't come with the name of a specific employer.
Ok. Ele falou que se o estudante aplicar para o OPT dentro do prazo, ele vai ser deferido automaticamente. And let me see about the OPT. So any student that is going to university in the United States can apply for the OPT.
Upon graduation, yes.
And
yes, that's the beauty of it.
When does the student have to apply? Before?
Usually you would apply within 90 days of graduation.
After graduation?
You would start before, so you have it upon graduation.
Ele falou que o estudante tem até 90 dias depois da graduação nos Estados Unidos para aplicar para o OPT. I remember about that when I was doing my master, someone from Mississippi College asked me if I would like to apply for the OPT. And then I started the papers, and then for some reasons I had to come back to Brazil. But I regret that I did not apply for that, because it would be a great experience for me. Eu falei que na minha época que eu estava fazendo mestrado, eu dei entrada na papelada do OPT e por algumas razões eu tive que retornar ao Brasil, mas eu me arrependo hoje em dia de não ter dado continuidade no OPT, porque seria uma boa oportunidade para mim. And I think we have some questions here. Someone asked, I have an aunt that lives in the United States for more than 35 years, and she is an American citizen. She really wants me to live with her. Can I do anything with that?
No.
Is there any way
Well,
for that?
Technically, yes, but it's not very practical. The first one would be the aunt would have to request her sister. She cannot request her nephew directly. And the problem is it's gonna be a long process. It's gonna take about 8 to 9 years. That's a problem.
So
yes. So it's not is really not just on family bounds. No.
So it's easier if she finds some way else to go to the United States, right?
Yes. 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 That's not going to be an effective solution. Not for the short term.
So, para traduzir, eu li uma pergunta de uma pessoa que disse que tem uma tia que mora nos Estados Unidos há mais de 35 anos e tem cidadania americana. E a tia quer muito que ela more com ela lá e perguntou se tem algum meio para isso. E o Dr. Francis disse que não, que teria que ser através da irmã, né, da mãe dessa pessoa, para poder requisitar, mas demora anos, talvez 8, 9 anos, e existem maneiras mais fáceis de conseguir ir para os Estados Unidos. And we had another question.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh no, it's someone's telling us that when he was studying in the United States, he was also doing a master's in law like I did. He worked with a professor helping him to translate articles. And it was also limited hours, but it was very helpful because he was making some money.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So we have one more question. Can you talk about Trump's intentions of cut OPT rights for international students. Many of US would like to stay legally in the US, but Trump is running this option for many. So do you know anything about that? Trump wants to end the OPT?
I would not, I mean, I'm not part of the administration, so I do not know what is really going on. What we do know is there is some pressure on H-1B. H-1B visas will be harder to get. There's no absolute guidance now on the OPT. The election is about, in essentially like 3 weeks away now, you know. We will know after the election what's going to happen on that aspect.
But I think if it was something he wanted to do, he would have done before.
Yes, certainly could have done it before. I think the OPT per se is probably not something that you want to necessarily clamp down, even if you want to limit foreign employment. The H-1B would be much more, this is because remember, the OPT, you have to have been a student in the US. H-1B is open to anybody. And you do have a fairly large, which has been a problem for years, abused by some companies who would, for instance, send 10 Indian computer software programmers application when they only need one. And they would keep doing that. And essentially, Indian nationals and Chinese nationals have a huge disproportionate share of the H-1B visas. So they tend to almost monopolize all the H-1B visas to the detriment of maybe a more diversified type of employment and other nationalities. So we do know that one of the rules that would prevent some of that is a concept of you're going to have to show that your employee, it will be in one specific place, and not like we've seen with many companies where they get the H-1B visa worker and then they send him physically to 30 different companies. So they basically, you know, offshore or sub-rent that employee to other company physically. So it's not like you have a business and you need an employee right here. Is your business is essentially to outsource that employee to 20 other different businesses. I've seen it. I've seen it with Indian nationals working in computer work for different companies who need computer and coding work. You know, it has been their business model for many, many years. I think that's what he's going after. If he goes after that, that doesn't mean that the H-1B visa per se will be hurt per se. You know, it would just be readjusted a little bit as to the proper use, because the proper use was you have a business, you cannot find an American or a legal immigrant, you hire a foreign worker, you get him to come over to work only for your company in your building, okay? So that's one aspect. The other aspect, the OPT being cut, I don't see it. I know there's a lot of foreign students that stopped coming in. I know we had the problem with the fact that classes were online, and the immigration service said, well, if the classes are online, we're not going to give you a visa. On the purely economics, I think it's a poor decision. I think when you have foreign students coming in to study, they pay tuition, they spend rent, they spend on food, even, you know, with the pandemic, they would still be spending, but that's more of a policy issue. I'm not too concerned about the OPT right now. I think that's still gonna continue. But the H-1B would be realigned, which is not necessarily a bad thing if he only gets rid of that monopolistic position of Indian and Chinese nationals who are able to sponsor 10, 20 petitions when they only need 2 people because they just don't care, because the number work, you know.
So just to summarize for the ones who doesn't understand English, eu tive uma pergunta da Marcele perguntando da intenção do Trump de terminar com esse tipo de visto que falamos agora há pouco, do OPT, que é o visto que o estudante pode mudar para ele, dar o direito do estudante trabalhar na área de estudo por até um ano. E o Dr. Francis disse que há rumores, mas ele não se preocuparia com isso e que o Trump está mais preocupado em terminar o visto ou modificar o uso do visto H-1B. Para aqueles que não sabem, o visto H-1B é aquele que permite uma empresa nos Estados Unidos contratar um cidadão estrangeiro, provando que não achou nenhum americano qualificado para aquela vaga. Mas, infelizmente, esse tipo de visto tem sido muito mal usado por empresas indianas e chinesas que, ao invés de contratar um funcionário, acabam dando um jeito e contratando vários funcionários, muito mais do que necessitariam, e principalmente na área de programação de computadores. E esse visto está sendo utilizado da forma errada. Então, o Trump tem a intenção de modificar esse visto para que ele seja usado da forma correta. Resumindo, foi mais ou menos isso. That's it. We have more questions. So, can you explain what is the difference between the H-1B and the EB-2, EB-3 visa?
Yes. Okay. So it seems like immigration is a topic of tonight. Okay. H-1B and EB-2. Well, an EB-2 candidate could be an H-1B candidate, but an H-1B candidate cannot necessarily be an EB-2 and probably is not. So the EB-2 is a higher visa on the sense that you need to qualify, you need to have more experience, you need to have, it's a little bit more refined, it's a little bit different candidate. The good thing with the EB-2 is, I'm sorry, maybe I should let you translate before I go too much.
Ele falou que há algumas diferenças no visto H-1B e o EB-2 e EB-3, e o EB-2 é para uma qualificação maior, e normalmente quem é qualificado para o EB-2 pode ser qualificável para o visto H-1B também, mas nem sempre quem é qualificável para o H-1B será qualificável para o EB-2. Okay.
And the good thing about an EB-2 is even if it takes more time than an H-1B, you can have it the whole year. Mm-hmm. An H-1B, you have to submit it once a year, and that's where you get the quote-unquote lottery because you get so many applicants.
So the H-1B is just 1 year?
No, the H-1B is once a year. Like there's, your petition must arrive. I mean, that's the usual standard to make it simple, must arrive April 1st. Every year, everybody sends it by April 1st. The EB-2, if you qualify, you can send the petition at any time during the year.
Okay, I understand.
That's one difference.
Ele diz que o H-1B as pessoas podem mandar normalmente só até abril de cada ano, e o EB-2 você pode aplicar qualquer época do ano.
The other difference is, like we talked previously about a lot of Indian and Chinese applicants, the H-1B is has a limit, has what we call a cap. Every year there's a set number of visas, and if you have, like it's oftentimes the case, too many applicants, it becomes a form of lottery.
Uhum. Ele diz que a outra diferença é que o EB2 é limitado pelo governo, e se tiver
H1B.
H1B
H1B is limited.
Ok. Na verdade, o H1B é limitado, e se tiver muitos aplicantes desse tipo de visto no ano, o governo faz um sorteio.
And then if you are selected, you only get your visa in October.
For the H1B.
Yes.
E se você for selecionado nesse sorteio do visto H1B, você só vai conseguir seu visto em outubro.
Then you have it for 3 years, and you can renew it.
Uhum. Então você pega o visto por 3 anos e pode ser renovado.
And from there, you will hopefully apply for a green card.
E depois, possivelmente, você vai poder aplicar para green card.
With an EB2, you can apply at any time during the year, and there's no limit, so it doesn't matter if other people are applying as well.
Uhum.
You still need an employer if you're gonna go with the labor certification process, and you can do that from Brazil, because you're gonna have to wait until the labor certification is approved, and that takes about 8 to 9 months.
Uhum. Ele falou que o EB2 pode ser aplicado em qualquer época do ano. Você vai precisar também de um empregador, e você não há sorteio nesse tipo de visto, não importa quantos aplicantes tiver. E esse tipo de visto você pode aplicar do Brasil, porque você vai ter que esperar o Labor Certificate, sabe?
Yes, labor certificate.
O certificado de trabalho para ser aprovado, para depois, então, você embarcar para os Estados Unidos.
And that is a proof that you qualify from a worker position, and that you qualify also because they could not find an American or legal immigrant to do or to take that position.
Ele falou que você pode aplicar através de um empregador, ou porque não acharam um americano que poderia preencher essa posição, essa vaga.
So either you get a work permit, but technically you would be getting a green card directly.
So you first get the work permit, and then the green card can be directly.
Today you get a work permit because most green cards are a little bit on the backlog, so they will give you a work permit in between, but otherwise the next step after the labor certification is actually to apply for what we call the green card, which is really legal permanent residency status.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something you can do with an EB2 petition.
Ele falou que com o EB2 você recebe a permissão de trabalho e depois aplica para o green card. Você pode até receber o green card direto, mas o green card às vezes demora, então vão te dar uma permissão de trabalho. E esse é um tipo de visto que você pode conseguir o green card, que é a residência permanente. But I think Brazilians know what is green card. Everybody talks.
Yes, but green card, you know, is a nickname. It's not a legal term, and green cards have not been green since the 1940s.
Oh, really? I didn't know about it. Because we say in Brazil green card.
Yes, but the green card existed only in the 40s. Then it got all colors. It got pink. It got white. Now it's like, you know, all kind of colors, but it hasn't been green for a long time.
Ele falou que o nome legal é outro, não é Green Card, e que já não é verde faz muitos anos. And I think, let's see if we have more questions.
Oh, yes, I can answer that one. By the end of the OPT, if I get a job offer in another line of work, would that be acceptable as well? Or do I necessarily have to work in the same line you graduated? Okay, so legally speaking, it could work. I guess it depends what you define as a line of work. Remember that if you are looking for an EB2, if somehow you qualify, or H-1B, the employer is still showing that you are able to do the work. So if you graduate from a medical school and you're going into healthcare, bio research, pharmaceutical company, all that, it's, you know, so it depends how you frame the field of work. Now, if you decide to run a business per se, or flower business, it may be a little bit harder to convince that you are the right person for the job. But it's not an obligation that your diploma matches what line of work you do. For instance, I got people who had a business degree to be essentially, you know, almost in anything. I mean, you can really make it wide. You could have, for instance, even for an H-1B, you could have a cook of Brazilian food, okay? Somebody who has been a cook in Brazil can show some experience. Maybe he also graduated from a culinary school in Brazil, and he could apply. Now, it's going to be hard to say that he's going to do Japanese food, you know, unless it's a Brazilian, I mean, a Japanese Brazilian, I understand. But otherwise, it's going to be like, why that person as opposed to somebody else, you know? So you don't have to be exactly what you study, but you certainly want to try to stay as close as possible to at least the general area of work. At least the industry, as much as possible.
Ok. A gente teve uma pergunta se no final do OPT a pessoa tiver uma oferta de trabalho numa área diferente daquela que ela formou, se é possível, se isso é aceitável, ou teria que ser necessariamente na mesma área de trabalho. Ele disse que não, que é possível, sim, você poder trabalhar em alguma outra área, mas é mais difícil conseguir, você teria que provar a relação disso com, talvez, com o que você estudou, isso é mais complicado, mas também não é impossível. Se você formar, terminar o OPT e querer abrir uma empresa, um restaurante, alguma coisa, também é mais complicado. Mas não há uma regra que você tem que trabalhar na área que você se formou.
I will take the next question here from Marceli BR13. Is it possible to do a change of status from F1 visa, OPT, and EB2 being in the USA? Okay, this is a very common misconception. So I'll let you translate because it happens a lot. The misconception is that you can change a visa inside the United States. Actually, legally speaking, you can only have a visa from the American consulate. I'll let you translate.
You change, okay. Ele falou que há muito desentendimento quanto a isso. Você não pode trocar de visto estando nos Estados Unidos. Você só pode mudar o seu visto, ter o seu visto emitido por um consulado americano.
But you can do a change of status within the United States. Actually, that's the only place where you can do it. But the change of status is not a visa. And there's a big difference. So you can go from an F1 visa to an OPT, absolutely. The EB2, if it's a visa and not a change of status, will always be through the American consulate. The same is true for an H1B. You know, if it's a true visa on your passport, it's going to be at the consulate. Can you do a change of status from even an E2 visa? Yes, it's called change of status to an E2 status. It's actually not an E2 visa. The E2 visa would be from the consulate. So bear in mind that that is sometimes a misconception and people misspoke. You actually can change your status within the United States, but you cannot get an actual visa within the United States.
So yeah, to summarize, visa is that stamp you get on your passport, but it doesn't mean with that visa you are getting in the United States, because the official from the immigration, the airport, can
refuse
for some reason refuse you. And but if you get in the United States, if you pass through immigration, then you get a status on that moment. So if I have like a tourist visa B2, and then I get to the United States in the airport, I pass through immigration, they interview me, and then
or not, they just let you in.
Yeah, or not. And then normally they accept you only if they have some reason to refuse you, they will, but if not, they will accept you. And then once you pass through, you are on a status of a B2 visa, a tourist visa. And that's the same way for the other types of visa.
Yes. So for instance, if you come as a tourist and you become a foreign student, you can have a change of status from B to F, but on your passport, you're not going to have a F1 visa. You will need to set an appointment at the American consulate later on, fly out, get a visa, and then fly back in. Because without the visa...
But doesn't mean they will accept your visa in the consulate, right?
That's
if
true.
They refuse, you cannot fly back. That's the problem.
It is a possibility. I mean, technically, it is a possibility. With foreign students, usually not, but other type of visa, yes, it is. Yes, that's true.
So just to translate, perguntaram se pode trocar o status do visto F1 para o OPT, para o EB2. Ele disse que sim, mas ele explicou a diferença entre visto e status, são coisas diferentes. O visto é aquele carimbo, né, que você recebe no passaporte, aquele papelzinho que o consulado cola no seu passaporte quando você vai tirar o visto no consulado americano no Brasil. E o status é aquele que você recebe após passar pelo oficial de imigração no aeroporto e adentrar nos Estados Unidos. Mas o fato de você ter o visto não te dá certeza nenhuma que você vai entrar nos Estados Unidos, nem mesmo o visto de turista, que é o B2. Na hora que você está entrando lá e passando pela imigração, o oficial da imigração tem o poder discricionário de te recusar no país e te mandar embora, por algum motivo, se ele desconfiar de algo. E também, se você tiver entrado com visto nos Estados Unidos, trocou de status, você não vai ter o visto do status novo no seu passaporte. Você teria que sair dos Estados Unidos, ir ao seu país de origem e tirar aquele visto referente ao status que você estava no país. Mas também o cônsul, no consulado americano, tem o poder também de te negar o visto, mesmo se você tiver o status. E aí você não conseguiria voltar para os Estados Unidos.
And yeah, that answers as well the question, you can't leave the country while under a status, right? Well, yeah, you can. You're just not sure to come back in. So the United States, unless you have a criminal case pending against you, will always let you leave the United States. You could be officially illegal, have a big sign, you know, I've been illegally in a country, and you go to the airport and you leaving, they will let you out. So you can always leave, but that's right, you may not come back. So if you have a status, oftentimes what you need to do is to prepare a petition, have the appointment at the consulate, and then leave the United States for the appointment. So you get the visa and then you come back.
Ele falou que o ideal é que nunca os Estados Unidos vai te proibir de sair do país. Mesmo se você estiver ilegal, você pode sair, mas você seria impedido de voltar. E aí, se você tá com status, trocou de status e quer esse visto, o ideal é que você marque um horário no consulado e saia dos Estados Unidos direto para o seu país para ir naquele consulado, conseguir o visto e ficar tudo certo. And we had another question. I don't know if you understand.
Well, let me finish on this one. That's why the petition is sent to the consulate. You get an appointment, and then you will tell the person that they can leave the country, because we have to budget time, airplane tickets, maybe hotel. They have to stay a few days, you know, to wait for the passport to be delivered by the U.S. consulate if the visa is granted. So that's something you do. Otherwise, the general advice is, unless you have a visa petition filed, or you just want to leave the United States, that's fine. But otherwise, you should not leave waiting for an appointment at the consulate. Because once you're out,
leaving, you know, if you have an appointment already.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. É o que eu falei agora.
And you don't have enough. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
É o que eu falei agora há pouco. Ele disse que para deixar os Estados Unidos, e se você tem intenções de voltar e só regularizar o visto, você só deixar após você ter já marcado o seu horário no consulado.
And that's why you don't send a petition unless you know that the client can qualify for the visa. If not, you better to tell him to stay in the United States and do nothing.
And maybe stay in the United States until he gets the green card.
Or right? Something, you know, another solution. But otherwise, if you cannot qualify the client for the visa, just stay in the U.S.
Ele falou que a orientação dos advogados de imigração em geral é ver se realmente o cliente pode qualificar para aquele tipo de visto. Se não, é melhor ele realmente ficar nos Estados Unidos até alguma outra solução, como, por exemplo, ter direito ao green card ou alguma outra coisa.
Well, I mean, the green card, that's something you can get sometimes through marriage that could cure some illegal stay. So a marriage to a U.S. citizen can actually have a curative effect, I guess, if we can say that.
Yeah. Ele falou que uma das maneiras de conseguir o green card é casamento e poderia até resolver o problema de quem está ilegal nos Estados Unidos.
So that also answers the question, is there a chance that your visa may be denied at the consulate? And yes, this is why, as a professional, you never want to send a petition unless you feel that, you know, 85% in your heart that it's going to be granted. Because depending on the situation, ironically, it's better sometimes for people to stay even with no legal status in the U.S. then sending a petition that may not work.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you send the petition and you get denied, they're already outside of the country and it's over. If they are inside the U.S. even illegally, you know, they may stay illegally, maybe wait for a future that could be different. But once you send the petition out, you have to make sure at least get a good 85% chance that it's going to work.
Uhum. Ele diz que os advogados de imigração têm que ter pelo menos 85% de certeza que aquela petição vai funcionar para o cliente. E aí, o ideal, se ele não tiver certeza que aquela petição vai funcionar, o ideal é o cliente permanecer nos Estados Unidos, mesmo que ilegal, até achar outra forma de legalizar. And we had another question from Milene. She said that I think she has a ban to enter maybe until December 31st. And she has the L1 visa and she cannot come to Brazil because of this ban. If she travels in December to Brazil and then go back in January, is there any risk of her not entering the United States again?
That's a difficult question to ask because we're having certainly in Europe, they're having a second wave of virus. Here, we don't know what's going to happen. It may depend on a lot of things. Maybe who gets elected in January may also have an impact on what regulation are put in place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a tough one. It's so new that we don't even know what to say. You know, we don't even know what to say. It's, you know.
If she's not sure that...
No, that's right. You're sure of nothing now. Let me tell you, it's even worse. Even people who have a need to investor visa. So for Brazilian per se, because Brazil never signed the treaty, they cannot get an E2 treaty. So I invite, you know, the Brazilian Congress to please sign the treaty of, you know, but for Brazilians who have a citizenship, usually through the bloodlines, usually a Spanish or an Italian passport or Portuguese passport, we can apply for an E2. Even E2 visas issued in Europe, they don't guarantee you the entry into the U.S. You actually have to send a request, and then if they decide, they can let you in. So it's kind of a pain right now. Right now is almost like a year, at least half a year that we wish somehow never existed, you know. So that one is a little bit difficult. Unfortunately, I do not think anybody knows of the answer because it changes so much. You have a limited number of airports you can land to land back into the U.S. Technically, I mean, when you look at the regulations, it's very limited as to who can come for sure back into the U.S.
Uhum. Ele diz que essa pergunta é muito complicada de responder, que provavelmente sim, há um risco, principalmente por causa da pandemia, que que os Estados Unidos limitou os países que podem entrar e os aeroportos, então é muito complicado responder isso agora, principalmente porque os Estados Unidos está com uma eleição de presidente em curso e dependendo muito de quem vai ganhar e assumir em janeiro, isso também pode mudar. Então é bem difícil de responder.
There was another question here. Elizabeth Meres. Okay, you can renew, or if you want to let you read it, Dr. Paula. Elizabeth Meres.
Is there a way you can renew your visa inside the United States or from a distance?
Yes, I know what you
It didn't change anything, only the renewal.
The answer is no, but you may be able to do an extension. So if you are in the United States today and you have at least 45 days left, let's say if it's a B visa on your stay, then you should apply right now for an application to extend your stay for an additional 6 months. They will take, ironically, they will take a few months to respond to you, but just filing the extension will preserve your rights to stay in the United States. So here's what, I'm sorry, maybe you should translate and then I will go into details.
Ele disse que o melhor é aplicar para a extensão do visto, que aí você ficaria legalmente nos Estados Unidos. Just to let you know, we have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. So let's say somebody came the 1st of January, get a B visa until June 1st. That's 6 months. Well, actually July 1st. To extend your stay of B visa, you must send the petition 45 days prior to the deadline. So you must send it before May the 15th. So like I was saying, if you come with a B visa on January 1st, and you have a full 6 months, you need to apply for extension from within the U.S. at least 45 days before the end of your stay. And at that stage, you send the request to immigration to extend, and then you wait until you get the response. Either you, and they may take a while. So, you know, you may have the full 6 months before you get the response, and then you need to leave after 6 months anyway. So you can do that extension that way, okay? If not, there's no renewal of the visa from within the United States. You need to go back to your country and get a new 5 or 10-year B visa.
Yes, and what you can do is change of status, like we explained.
You can change the status, or you can extend it, make, you know, on the sense of making it longer, especially with B visas.
Então, gente, ele falou que com o visto B, que é o B1, B2, que é negócios, turista, a pessoa que entra nos Estados Unidos pode ficar com status de até 6 meses. Mas se a pessoa tiver intenção de ficar mais, ela teria que entrar com o pedido, com a petição de pedir para estender o status com até 45 dias antes de terminar os 6 meses. E isso pode levar um tempo também até você poder receber a petição, receber a resposta da sua petição. And I saw one question on the other live before it ended. Someone was asking if a person, an American citizen, can sponsor a visa like a company can.
Like what? I'm sorry?
Like a company can sponsor a visa for an employee.
Yes.
An American citizen, like a person who is an American citizen, can sponsor a visa for someone else as well. Like,
yes. You can sponsor for your spouse. You can sponsor for your children. You can sponsor for your parents. You can sponsor for your siblings too. Legally speaking, you can. Siblings, children, parents. So, for instance,
that's the only cases.
Yes. Well, yeah. It's the only case by marriage or blood relation. Absolutely. Yes.
Ele falou que sim, que uma pessoa pode ser sponsor de um visto para outra, mas em alguns casos específicos, sendo parente, né, próximo, parente de sangue, que os casos seriam para esposa, criança, irmãos, ou para os pais. São essas as opções.
But that is for, you know, what you call the green card. For visa only, actually, if you want to invite somebody to come and visit you. You can do a letter to the consulate that you are inviting a friend, that you're inviting your nephew, that you're inviting somebody, that they're gonna come and maybe stay with you for 2 weeks or 1 month, that they will be living with you, so they don't pay hotel. Maybe you will supply the food, maybe you will supply entertainment, maybe you will show them around, and they're essentially your guest. So on that aspect, they can get a B visa, which otherwise they could not get.
Uhum. Ele disse que a pessoa pode fazer uma carta explicando que o estrangeiro vai visitá-la e ficar na casa dela por um certo tempo, mas seria um visto de turista nesse caso, e que às vezes a pessoa sozinha não conseguiria esse visto, sem essa carta de recomendação.
Yes.
And two things I think still Brazilians sometimes have doubts: the difference between the F1 visa and J1.
F1 and J1?
Yes.
Okay. F1 is a foreign student. With a F1, you go to what we call a college or a university. And with a F1, you're supposed to, they call it a degree seeker. So you want the diploma. You want to get a diploma.
And J1?
J1 could be actually pretty much anybody. It could be a student, let's say a student in Brazil, or it could be somebody who graduated, let's say, in Brazil and is looking to do an internship, or it could also be a professional or somebody already working for several years, and there's a specific training or a specific opportunity to do an internship in an American company, or you know, and that's different. The F1 visa, you are a student, you're supposed to pay the university for tuition and you get a diploma. The J1, it's an experience. You're getting some training, or you're living a 6 months, 1 year, it could be up to a year and a half, depending on what it is, where you're living in the US and you may be working and you may get paid for it. You know, usually you may get paid for it, and it's not the same criteria. So that's a difference.
Ele disse que o visto F1 é para estudantes específicos que querem ter o diploma nos Estados Unidos, e o J1, J1, são critérios diferentes. Poderia ser para algum estágio nos Estados Unidos, algum outro tipo de experiência, ou às vezes até um estágio de trabalho para a pessoa que já é formada, e a pessoa poderia receber por isso. Então são critérios diferentes. Because I remember when I was an exchange student for high school, I got the J1, and when
Yes.
and when I did my master in law, I got the F1.
Correct. And then you could have gotten a J1 if you were to do an internship, let's say in a law firm. That's what it is. So you don't go to school at all, but you go to the United States specifically to work, get some experience, or get a specialized training. And that would be a J1. And for the J1, you can be paid with an actual salary and everything.
Ele falou que para o visto F1 você tem que estar especificamente estudando, e para o J1 você poderia estar fazendo um estágio e receber pagamento para isso. I see a lot of Brazilians get the J1 and they go as an au pair.
Yes.
To work as a nanny, and then they can also study right? Right?
Yes, there's a huge industry in some countries of what is called work and travel. So the idea is to create like a cultural tie to, there actually, believe it or not, that goes back to the Cold War with the Soviets. And the idea was to bring foreign people closer to America so they could experience the United States and then go back to their country and see how was the United States. That's really where it comes from.
Like an exchange program.
Yes. And then, you know, it developed today into a kind of industry where, you know, students or young people can go, like you say, as au pair, and they get paid, even if it's not much, but they experience the American life. And, you know, so that happens a lot. You're right. That too is a J1 visa. But you could have a scientist building, you know, rocket or missiles, or you could have Pete Tongi doing a heart surgery training in the United States on a J1, you know. Yeah, that's who I remember.
Ok. Então, ele falou que o J1 muitas pessoas usam para ir no intercâmbio de au pair. Para quem não sabe, é um tipo de intercâmbio que a pessoa vai trabalhar como babá nos Estados Unidos, numa casa de família, vai receber por esse trabalho e pode também estudar. E esse visto J1 normalmente é concedido para estrangeiros que querem fazer algum tipo de intercâmbio nos Estados Unidos, ou poderia ser para um cientista, ou até para um médico que teria que ir para os Estados Unidos fazer uma cirurgia ou algo do tipo. I think, I don't know if it's true, but I think when some Brazilians go as an au pair, J1, sometimes the government thinks they want to stay, or if they come back to Brazil, they want to go back for some reason to work for the same family and stay. Because when I was in Mississippi, I made a friend, and she was an au pair, and she stayed 2 years, and then she returned to Brazil. And after a year or two, the family invited her to go back to visit, because the children really liked her, and they said they would pay everything. They wrote a letter saying they would sponsor her trip, and she tried several times, like 5 times, to get the B2 visa, and they always deny it to her. I don't know, they think she could go back to stay and work illegal for this family. Yes. Or something like that.
That actually is a good point. The officers, the immigration officers at the consulate, or even at the border, but especially at the consulate, they don't take the position that you're coming as a tourist and now they have to think maybe you're not. They always take the position that you are coming to stay. So you have to prove that you will go back to Brazil. So because of that, and that's a very important point, and probably I should let you translate that, because that's really a cornerstone of how to prepare for interview or the petition, is that the officer will think you will always stay in the United States.
Então, ele fala, eu contei uma história que eu tive uma amiga em Mississippi que era au pair, ficou por 2 anos. Depois disso, no visto J1, depois ela retornou ao Brasil, e após 1 ano ou 2, a família para a qual ela trabalhou disse que as crianças gostavam muito dela e gostariam que ela fosse visitá-los nos Estados Unidos, e disseram que pagariam toda a viagem dela. E aí fizeram uma carta para ela, e ela fez todo tudo que tinha que fazer para aplicar para o visto B2 de turista, e já umas 5 vezes ela tentou e foi negado. E ele disse que é muito comum isso, porque depois que você esteve nos Estados Unidos com um tipo de visto, o o oficial da imigração vai sempre pensar que você está indo para ficar. Então, você é que tem que provar a ele que você está indo para passear e não para ficar.
That is why, like when we do B visa tourist petitions, we always list all the assets of the family. We list pictures or have documents by family members. You want to show as much as possible work stability. You want to, sometimes we even send pictures of the home, pictures of the farm, just to show that, listen, and that's not just for Brazil, that's everywhere. Just to show that, listen, I'm happy in my country. I just want to visit yours, but I'm fine at home.
Ok. Ele falou que tem que juntar todos os documentos possíveis para mostrar que você tem estabilidade no seu país de origem e que você quer realmente só visitar. Mostra estabilidade de trabalho, mostra que você tem uma casa, tudo isso, né? Mostra a realidade financeira da sua família e que você tem estabilidade no seu país e quer realmente só visitar. Yes, yeah, and with this case of my friend, she proved that the family wanted to sponsor the trip, and she was studying here, going to university here. She was enrolled, but even though they didn't believe her, so
yeah,
that's hard.
It is.
Oh, sorry, I lost my phone. Okay, and then I think because I was 2 times a student there, first with J1 and then with F1, they always think that of me too. But I already have the B2 visa. It's gonna expire 2022, I think. But in some airports they put that machine that you scan your visa and you answer some questions on the screen, and then you print a paper with your picture, approve it.
Yes.
And I don't know why every time I go to this machine, I do everything, and then it's printed my face and then denied. And
really?
every time, and then I every time I need to go to interview, and they ask me the same questions: what I did in the United States before, what I studied, where I lived, and why I am going again.
Yeah.
Even
Don't do the machine anymore if you can't.
Yeah, because I lose my time there, because I know it always prints denied for me. The first time I didn't know, because I haven't seen this machine before. It was in 2017 in LA. I was going with a friend, and it was the first time. And when it printed denied, and my friend besides me, it was approved, and I was saying, what has happened? Am I being deported to Brazil? And then someone told me, no, you just have to go to interview, and they will do some questions to you, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then let me see. Just to end, something I think we didn't talk about is the spouse and fiance visa. Some people have questions when they are getting married to an American citizen. What is the best and right one?
Well, the best, I don't know, but I can give you the 2 options. The one is a fiance visa. So by definition, the American citizen is in the United States. The foreign citizen is not in the US. Oftentimes, probably cannot get a B visa. So at that stage, the only option is a K visa, which is a fiance visa. And the fiance visa is basically a full marriage petition that is the equivalent of a marriage petition sent to the immigration service, that then gives an appointment to the foreign national at the consulate, would deliver the visa under the condition that the marriage occurs within 90 days of getting into the United States.
Uhum.
If you want to let you translate,
Ok.
and then continue.
Eu falei com ele que um último assunto que ainda não conversamos, que é a diferença de visto de noiva e visto de esposa para o estrangeiro que está casando com um cidadão americano. E a diferença é que se o estrangeiro estiver no seu país de origem, né, o certo é dar a entrada com o visto de noiva, que é o K, visto K, e aí vai marcar uma entrevista no consulado com o estrangeiro, e aí o estrangeiro tem que esperar receber essa autorização para depois poder adentrar nos Estados Unidos. Normalmente não vai conseguir um visto de turista nesse tempo, tem que esperar todo o processo de visto de noiva para conseguir. E em geral é isso. E você tem que casar depois que você recebe a permissão de entrar nos Estados Unidos como noiva, você tem até 90 dias para casar com o cidadão.
Yeah. And then after the marriage in the United States, then you do the marriage petition as an adjustment of status. So that's one option. The other option is the American citizen goes, let's say, to Brazil, gets married in Brazil, and now you have two options. If the Brazilian citizen has a B visa, technically, it's still possible. It's not great to come in and then get the adjustment. If you cannot get a B visa, it's called consular processing, and essentially while waiting for the visa to come into the United States with a green card, because that's basically what it is, the couple has to be apart, after marriage, probably for a good 9 to 10 months. It can be a little bit more. So it's technically a possibility as well.
Ele disse que depois que você entrou com visto de noiva e casou nos Estados Unidos, dentro dos 90 dias, depois você tem que fazer um ajuste de status para o status de esposa. E a outra opção é o casal casar, por exemplo, no Brasil, e dar entrada no visto de esposa e aguardar até receber o green card, que pode demorar até 10 meses. E o problema é que se a esposa estrangeira tiver o visto de turista, ela pode entrar nos Estados Unidos. Não é a melhor maneira, mas poderia ser desta forma. So, someone just wrote, Dr. Franz and Paula, thank you very much for donating your time to answer our questions. I would love to make an appointment in the future with Dr. Francis to discuss my visa options to remain in the United States. Marceli, I met her in Mississippi when I was there. And
Okay.
I came back to Brazil. She stayed in the United States, and right now she's living in New Jersey. Okay. She's under an F1 status right now because she's going to university. Okay. And someone else just wrote, Dr. France and Dr. Paulo, thank you so much for the valuable information. I loved it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm glad if I could have helped anyone, or at least given some assistance through my answers. It's always a good thing.
If anyone wants to know anything else or need an immigration law, you can contact us and then we can set up an appointment. Se alguém tiver alguma outra dúvida e precisar de um advogado de imigração, pode entrar em contato com a gente, que marcaremos um horário e ficaremos felizes de atendê-los. Can I do a screenshot? I didn't have time to do the last time.
Okay.
Okay, let me get my phone. Wait. Okay, smile. One more. Okay. Okay, thank you for your time, and
Thank you.
let's keep in touch and maybe do another lives, because I think everyone liked it.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, have a good night, and
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Have a good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.